The topic for the Columbia City Council tonight.
The council will consider renewing a capital improvement tax for a variety of projects. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is here to tell us about one of those projects that the tax might help pay for.
I talked to Councilman Carl Scholar earlier today about the potential renewal of this 10-year-old capital improvement tax. Of the many projects it would help fund, one would be a mutual service center in North Columbia. The service center would house both members of the Columbia Fire Department and Police Department. Scholar says there's been some disagreement among City Council about how much the center would cost, with some thinking it would be too expensive, but he says the center would increase both police and fire department responsiveness in that part of town.
Project as well, it's in line with trying to decentralize the police department so that we have kind of one node on the north side of the town and one.
If approved tonight, the tax will appear as a ballot issue in the August elections. Scholar says he expects the language of the tax to remain the same.
One man is in the hospital after a domestic dispute led to a shooting earlier today. Good afternoon, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Jim Reek. Thanks for joining us. The dispute involved 3 people and it was over a gardening tool. KOMU-8 Sam Knef is live at the scene with the latest details. Sam?
Jim and Brittany, I'm here on West Sexton Street where Columbia PD responded to a physical disturbance call around noon. When they arrived on the scene, they found one male victim with a gunshot wound to the leg. Police say the man was threatening a woman with a shovel when another man approached with a gun to protect her. They say the man with the shovel approached the shooter and was then shot in the leg. One witness said the victim and the woman weren't fighting and that he grabbed the shovel in response to the other man firing what appeared to be warning shots.
No, they was just arguing real loud stuff.
And I heard he had a shovel?
Yeah. I would get a shovel too if somebody shot at me.
Police say that while they've brought multiple people in for questioning, no arrests have been made so far. Reporting live, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
For those who live in the northern part of Columbia, it might seem as though everywhere else in town is a really long drive.
It does seem that. It doesn't matter if you're far south, far north, but it does feel that way.
You're on the road.
But when you need medical care, the last thing you want is a long drive plus the wait time. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is live in the studio with us to tell us about another option for the north part of town.
Yeah, Columbia's Chamber of Commerce is hosting a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the grand opening of the Boone Medical Group North Clinic later this morning. The clinic is located on Rainforest Parkway in northern Columbia. It first opened in early April to provide quicker and less expensive medical care for that part of town. The clinic does not require appointments. The ribbon cutting will begin at 10:30 a.m.
The local Veterans of Foreign Wars post in Centralia is hosting a memorial service at the Centralia Cemetery starting in about half an hour. KOMU-8 Sam Knef joins us live in Centralia to give us a look at how they're honoring military veterans today.
Chris, I'm here at the Centralia Cemetery. As you can see behind me here, the avenue of flags is up to honor deceased veterans. A little more than 400 flags are lined up down these roads. Each is labeled with the name of someone who's passed away. One of these names belongs to the grandfather of the event's guest speaker. He says that while Memorial Day can be a fun time with family, it's important to remember those the day really honors.
We've been at war for 13, 14 years, and I think across the nation, many people have become disconnected with the fact that we've been at war. Unless you have a military service member as a family member, loved one, spouse, you really don't think about the day-to-day life of, a country at war for the last 13 or 14 years.
Ball will be giving a speech here in about 30 minutes. He says even though that holidays like Memorial Day and Veterans Day are important to honor veterans, he likes to think of every day as Memorial Day. Reporting live, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News, Centralia.
The search for a young black bear continued today in Fulton, but now there's a new plan for getting the bear back to its home.
KOMU-8 Sam Knef is live in Fulton to tell us about the new approach to catch the bear.
The bear watch is off, at least for now. He seems to be the talk of town, though. I've had multiple people come up to me and ask me if I found the bear. I haven't, but neither have the Fulton Police Department or the Missouri Department of Conservation. Around 2 o'clock today, the Police Department and Conservation Department called off the search for the bear now known as Yogi. That's Fulton Police Chief Steve Myers' nickname for the young black bear. Myers says the bear is of no harm to anyone unless, of course, he is provoked. He says the plan is to let Yogi find his way out of the city.
But the thing I'd like to stress to people is that he's not dangerous. It's just a small bear, probably 125 pounds or so.
Myers did give the tip not to feed the bear, as that would contribute to him sticking around. Fulton PD and the Missouri Department of Conservation will help Yogi get home if he pops up again, but for now, they're just going to leave him alone. Reporting live in Fulton, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
The fire department started the first day of survival training this morning. Local emergency training specialists helped teach Columbia firefighters various life-saving strategies. The firefighters went through multiple stations that simulated dangerous real-world scenarios. These included bailing out of windows, escaping basements, and navigating a makeshift maze inside a semi-truck. One battalion chief says the course is designed to teach firefighters how to act when they're on their own.
That's where every second counts, and their life could really be on the line.
Frazier says the entire fire department will be shuffling through the course over the next 3 days. He says teamwork is essential for the fire department to do their jobs successfully.
Race and African Americans. A new report on race shows Missouri still faces massive problems. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jem Reek.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. The state report shows black drivers are far more likely to be pulled over. KOMU-8 Sam Knef is here to give us some details about that report.
Attorney General Chris Costa released a report this morning that says in 2014, black drivers were 75% more likely to be pulled over on Missouri roads than white drivers. Costa says the numbers don't reflect bias in Missouri officers, but that more effort needs to be put into lessening the disparity. A member of Empowering Missouri says he agrees the numbers don't necessarily mean bias, but things like community-wide race discussions and specialty training courses for officers might help solve the problem.
Although the data don't prove bias, as Koster says in the report, the disproportions are certainly enough to make you think twice.
Love says the numbers might also be a little skewed by the fact that officers are far more likely to patrol in lower income neighborhoods, which are likely to have higher numbers of African Americans in Missouri.
Light released a quality report on the city's drinking water for 2014. It appears the city passed with flying colors. The report lists the amount of various substances found in the water. Columbia is well within state-regulated ranges for each substance. The city runs about 4,000 quality tests each year, which is more than the recommended number.
We take water quality very seriously, as we should. Not only are our customers drinking it, but we're drinking it home.
Kaplowitz says the numbers have only slightly varied throughout the years.
One of Columbia's most popular playgrounds is having a grand reopening later today.
KOMU-8 Sam Knef is live at Cosmo Park to tell us about the playground renovations.
Columbia's senior park planner Matt Boehner says Steinberg Playground is Columbia's biggest and best, and I've got to say, just from looking at it, I can't disagree. It's now one of the many Columbia playgrounds Columbia citizens can visit as a part of Park and Recreation's Visit Your Parks Playground Challenge, aimed at getting kids more active. They wanted the playground to be a time machine experience. When you first enter, you'll notice the prehistoric theme, including Mr. T-Rex. This area is completely wheelchair accessible. Boehner says accessibility was important in the renovation process. Making your way toward the hillside of the playground, it becomes more space age, all culminating in the return of the rocket ship. Boehner says he hopes the playground is just one of the stops for Columbia kids en route to completing the playground challenge.
Get them more involved in our parks and get them out and get outside and play.
People who visit 10 or more playgrounds can turn in their logged visits to Parks and Recreation for various prizes. Boehner says the challenge, along with the reopening of Steinberg Playground, should help kids get more active this summer. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
Missouri got its fair share of rain last night, and it looks like we're paying for it today. Good evening, I'm Katie Link.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. For some roads in Boone County, the rain was enough to cause some pretty serious flooding. We have team coverage on last night's storm damage from Boone County and Randolph County. First, let's send it over to KOMU-8 Sam Knef, who's in Columbia, to show us just how bad that flooding was in some areas.
Roads across Boone County were closed today due to flooding from last night's rain, including the one behind me here. I visited a few of these roads today to see just how bad it was.
When it's hot outside, sometimes all you want is some water, but be careful what you wish for.
A beautiful summer day like today seems like the perfect day to go on a nice little drive. Until you run into this.
It's hard to drive through a foot of water. Here in Ashland, this is just one of the 8 Boone County roads that were closed on Monday due to flooding from Sunday night's rain. Road flooding is not uncommon in mid-Missouri, but one Ashland resident says the flooding outside his home is the worst it's been in a while.
Yeah, about 4 years or so, yeah.
Cole Morris says the flooding isn't too much of a hassle for his family, but in Hartsburg, at least one driver is wondering how the heck to get where he needs to go. And in Columbia, a man on his way to give an estimate on some lawn care is taking a rain check.
Yeah, it makes it a little more inconvenient. We'll have to wait till tomorrow. We probably could find another way around, but we'll just have to wait till tomorrow.
Scott says the amount of water was a lot more than he expected, but certainly not the most he's ever seen.
Welcome to Missouri.
I also talked to Boone County Battalion Chief Gail Blumenkamp today about the closed roads. He said people who live in the area are used to flooding and know how to deal with it. The problem is people who don't know the area and they don't know alternate routes. They might take their chances and try to cross it. Blumenkamp says, turn around, don't drown. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
The Missouri Juvenile Justice Association wants to improve relations with schools and students. The group trained Jefferson City School administrators in effective school interaction today. The key focus of the training was to improve communication when students are getting in trouble. A coordinator says the goal is finding alternatives for young people committing low-level crimes. He said preventing crime will lead to more productive adults.
We work well with the police department and other districts as well as Cole County. But to find other options, alternatives to really help youth and give them a chance at being successful.
Baumann says the goal is to work with as many schools as possible. Follow-up to breaking news we brought you last night at 10 o'clock. Boone County deputies made an arrest in a double shooting on Demerit Drive. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jem Reek.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. KOMU-8 Sam Knef has more on the suspect. He joins us live on Demerit Drive where that shooting happened.
I'm here on the 700 block of Demerit Drive, the scene of a double shooting that happened last night around 8 o'clock. We're told this man, 27-year-old Eddie Lee Holmes, is now behind bars, accused in the shooting. This is video KOMU shot last night. Witnesses say 2 men approached a group of people gathered outside an apartment building. Authorities say one of the men opened fire, hitting 2 people in their lower extremities. Both of the victims are expected to recover. Holmes is facing 2 counts of first-degree assault and armed criminal action. We've also learned he is charged in another double shooting that happened on the same street less than a month ago. 2 men were also wounded in that incident. He's facing assault and weapon charges. We'll continue to bring you updates as soon as we get them, and you can follow them on KOMU.com. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
The Food Marketing Institute shows major changes in the way people are buying their groceries. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is live at a local Columbia grocery store to tell us about the changes and what some local shoppers think.
The 41st annual U.S. Grocery Shoppers Trend Study found a few new trends in how people shopped in 2014. Among these trends is a shift in the deciding generation and a focus on wellness. The study found people 50 and over plan their meals ahead and make lists throughout the week. However, millennials, on the other hand, are less patient. 25% of meals eaten by 20-somethings were bought the same day. The study also shows Americans are more invested in their health, and since 2007, there has been a steady increase in consumers who value fresh products. I talked to a local shopper who seems to fit this trend.
I can't do anything high fructose corn syrup. I can't do much sugars. I try to stay on the healthy side of everything.
The Food Marketing Institute also found people are apparently very trusting of their stores. The study indicates 91% of Americans trust their grocery stores to provide safe food products. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
Columbia were playing inside a SWAT vehicle and fire truck outside of Walmart today. Columbia Police and Fire were helping MU Health with a fundraiser. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is in the studio to tell us more about the Children's Hospital's need for a new ambulance.
As part of a Children's Miracle Network campaign, Columbia Emergency Services put their coolest vehicles on display outside of the Grindstone Walmart today. Columbia Police showed off their SWAT vehicle, Columbia Fire brought a fire truck, and MU Health flew out its emergency helicopter. Kids got the green light to climb all over everything under supervision. Parents watched, asked officials questions, and got to donate to the campaign. A small crowd watched in awe as MU's emergency helicopter left in style. The event coordinator says she appreciates all the help from the fire and police departments.
Events like this actually create awareness around emergency services, and so with that respect, it's kind of neat for the community to see what each one of these entities do.
Fritchie says the number of patients MU Children's Hospital sees has recently doubled. The goal is to raise $150,000 for the new ambulance, and so far they're about halfway there.
Working in downtown Columbia is not always the most fun experience, especially if you ask the people who work downtown. The Columbia City Council will vote on a proposal tonight that could make it a little more bearable. KOMU-8's Sam Knef tells us what the council will vote on and how it could affect drivers.
If approved, the Downtown Employee Permit Pilot Program would allow people to buy $35 monthly parking permits. The permits would allow 10-hour parking at designated areas downtown. The goal is to give downtown employees somewhere to park all day without getting ticketed and to clear up spaces in front of downtown businesses for customers. The designated areas would be primarily on Ash, Walnut, and 4th Streets. One downtown business owner says it would be a welcome change.
In general, the parking situation in Columbia is, always contentious. Parking is, hard to find, and with the addition of student housing, it's going to be a lot worse going forward.
The program would also add 33 new meters to underused parking areas downtown, and Columbia Public Works would sell about 200 parking permits.
The department is asking downtown businesses and residents for help. Good evening, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Jim Reek. Thanks for joining us. With the assistance from the Community Improvement District, police sent out a survey to downtown businesses asking about surveillance camera access. KOMU-8 Sam Knef is live downtown to tell us more about the request.
The Columbia Police Department wants to know who has surveillance cameras outside like Willie's does here downtown, and if they can access the video for future investigations. Police asked the district to send out a survey to almost 1,000 downtown businesses and residences. The police department already has security cameras set up at various downtown intersections, but Sergeant Chad Gooch says they can use all the help they can get filling in the gaps. He says the main problem is simply not knowing who all has cameras downtown. The executive director of the district says police asked for help at their last meeting.
They said it would be very helpful for them to have a database of the businesses that might have exterior cameras that they might be able to use in case there was some kind of incident they were investigating. So it's a totally voluntary list that they're creating of who might have footage available.
I talked to a few people from businesses around downtown, and they said they wouldn't have a problem with police using their video. This includes a bartender here at Willie's who says he's had police come in before and there's never been a problem. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
All right, welcome back. Home foreclosures are up in Columbia as well as in Missouri. Nationwide, the numbers are the highest they've been for nearly 2 years. KOMU-8 Sam Knef is live outside of one of Columbia's foreclosed homes to tell us about some possible reasons for the spike.
I'm here on Bushnell Drive. The house behind me is one of 35 foreclosed properties in Columbia. That's according to RealtyTrack.com. In May, Columbia saw a 56% increase in foreclosures from the previous month. That's in line with Missouri, which had 40% more foreclosures from the previous year. Nationwide, there were more foreclosures in May than any of the previous 19 months. A Columbia real estate agent says the market for buying homes in Columbia is hot. He says banks see this as an opportunity to fill the high demand, which could contribute to the spike.
Based on what I've read, that this is a spring house cleaning. They're getting everything out, and that by the end of July into August, they will have cleaned enough of their inventory that we'll be back down.
John says foreclosures tend to pile up month to month because the process can sometimes take up to a year or two. He says buying foreclosed homes is more expensive now than it was just 2 years ago, which adds to the pileup and ultimately to the spike in the numbers. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
State Representative's appearance at a memorial for Confederate soldiers has met criticism. Democratic Representative Brandon Ellington says Republican Rep Chuck Basie's appearance at the event last weekend was inappropriate. He says Basie saluted a Confederate flag, and that deserves repercussions, especially with heightened sensitivity from South Carolina. Basie says he didn't salute the Confederate flag. His great-great-grandfather was a Union soldier buried with Confederate soldiers.
There's no way possible that we should be having tributes to the Confederacy as elected officials that are supposed to represent Missouri.
If there was a salute to the Confederate flag there that was there, I didn't see it. I wouldn't know it if I saw it right now.
Ellington says he would like a public apology from Basie and possibly see him take sensitivity training. Basie says it was a misunderstanding and that he would be talking to Ellington.
Program in Missouri allows organizations to use shredded scrap tires for playground bedding.
First, they need approval from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. KOMU-8's Sam Knef joins us live from a playground that was denied the grant. He tells us now why.
Trinity Lutheran Church here on Rollins Street in Columbia first applied for the grant back in 2012 to improve the bedding for the playground behind me here. Lawyers say, however, it was denied the grant because it is a church. The church claimed the DNR was denying its religious freedom, but the case was initially dismissed in court. The church's representation is currently preparing a petition for the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. One lawyer representing Trinity Lutheran Church says the DNR denying the grant is confusing given how the church ranked in their application.
There were 44 applications. Trinity Lutheran ranked number 5, and there were 14 grants that were given that year. So they clearly would have had a grant that year because they met all the requirements for the DNR. Just the DNR said, no, we're not going to give it to you because you're a church.
Stephanie Diedrich with the Department of Natural Resources did send us an email. While she did not directly respond about the case, she said the DNR would be changing its language on its application forms to better reflect its understanding of constitutional limitations with religious entities. Reporting live in Columbia, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
City police want drivers to slow down. The Missouri State Highway Patrol found a high number of statewide speed-related crashes in recent years, especially in work zones. Starting today, the Jefferson City Police Department's taking measures to lower speed-related accidents. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is live at the state capitol to tell us what police are doing to slow drivers down.
From 2011 to 2014, there were almost 500 speeding-related crashes here in Jefferson City. That's according to Missouri State Highway Patrol, which also found there were about 5,500 crashes in work zones statewide. The Jefferson City Police Department says those numbers are way too high. Starting today through the 4th of July, Jefferson City PD will be conducting increased speed enforcement throughout the city with a particular focus on the Lafayette Interchange work zone. An officer told me people speed through the area far too often, endangering everyone involved. He told me police are not trying to intimidate, they're just trying to make the roads a little safer.
You know, sometimes there's that public perception that we're just out to write a bunch of tickets, and in this case, that's not it at all. Just the opposite. We want people to comply with the law for their safety and the safety of the workers.
As far as why the speed numbers are high, Captain Schumacher says he's not quite sure, but distracted driving probably plays a big part in it. Penalties for endangering Missouri highway workers can range from $1,000 to $10,000. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
It's a good time to hit the road, and with the holiday weekend coming up, there will be plenty of drivers on Missouri roads. But more drivers on roads unfortunately means more accidents. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says June and July are busy months for roadside assistance in central Missouri.
Troop F of the Missouri State Highway Patrol has already assisted 214 drivers this month, and that number is high. In November 2014, which Highway Patrol says is always one of the busiest months, Troop F assisted 162 drivers. Highway Patrol says summer heat could factor into cars breaking down, but simply more drivers being on the road in the summer is probably the more likely cause. One tow truck business owner says he gets more calls in July. He says his business is prepared for a busy holiday weekend.
We'll have a third guy on. Usually we have a primary, secondary guy. There is more accidents, you know, so if that's the case, then we would have 3 drivers that we could send out if need be.
Missouri State Highway Patrol assisted 231 drivers in July 2014. Highway Patrol expects similar numbers this July.
The flood of 1993 wreaked havoc across Missouri. Some people lost everything. But more than 20 years later, one woman is getting back something she never thought she'd see again. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is live in Cedar City to tell us the unlikely story.
Jefferson City Parks and Recreation was working on a project here in Old Cedar City when they found something. In 1993, before the Great Flood, this area was full of homes and businesses. With a little help from social media, one woman was amazed to find precious memories she thought the flood had taken from her forever.
Jefferson City Parks and Rec was working on a new sidewalk when they found it.
It's a miracle.
Photographs taken more than 20 years ago. Patty Green thought they were lost forever, along with everything else the flood of 1993 took from her family.
I thought I lost all of my pictures. One thing was left in my trailer was the frame.
In 1993, this would have all been underwater, which is why it's miraculous anybody was able to find the pictures and for them to be in such good shape.
Seen something look like paper, and I thought, I got out and picked it up and seen it as a photograph of a mother holding a baby. I thought, boy, you know, that, and I thought to myself that could be the only picture they might have left.
For Green, the photographs remind her of the day her granddaughter was born, but they're also a sad reminder.
I said, oh my God. Oh, it's... And then, you know, after she passed away, I keep it to myself.
Patty lost her daughter Lena last year to what doctors think was a seizure.
Then these are why it's so precious to me, because now I got some memories of her, you know, when she was younger and the baby.
Green went to the patch of land where she once lived to thank the people that dug up her old memories.
That brought me to tears that she was tickled to death that was her only pictures of her, you know, grandchildren and her daughter. And so I was glad that I could do that for her.
Green says she's thankful Parks and Rec thought to put the photos on Facebook.
When I talked to Green earlier this morning, she said she had not yet talked to her granddaughter Sarah about the photos, but she said Sarah would probably break down in tears just like she did. She said Sarah and her mother were very close. Reporting live in Old Cedar City, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
Columbia landfill's old odor control system, well, stunk. So now the landfill is switching to a new system to try and please those people. KOMU-8's Sam Knef went to the landfill to see what all the fuss is about.
No one likes taking out the trash, except for these guys, and they try their best to keep any funky odors from leaving the premises. But some neighbors of the Columbia Sanitary Landfill are making a stink.
Sulfur type smell on quite a few occasions. It is relatively bothersome.
After other neighbors complained, members of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources came to check it out.
They didn't smell it outside our perimeter, but to be proactive, we peeled the mulch off and we started covering with clay, which alleviates the problem of odors.
That's right, clay is the secret to keeping the smell sealed in. To be safe, workers also inspect the landfill's perimeter on a daily basis with this thing, the Nasal Ranger. It detects odor in the air down to parts per million.
That's pretty much it.
But is the smell really that bad?
Even with the clay odor filtration system, I can tell you can be glad smell-o-vision does not yet exist. And I can understand how some people found the smell of the old mulch odor filtration system to be almost unbearable.
Yeah, definitely.
Implementing all of this is running the landfill about 30 grand.
Well, sounds like that's pretty costly, but I'd say that they are responding well to the community, and I think it would be beneficial.
Paul says it's worth it to be a good neighbor.
You're going to have some odor, but you want to control the odor so it's not obnoxious to people.
Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News, Columbia.
Coming up, many in Missouri will be heading down to the Lake of the Ozarks, but with all of the recent rain, safety on the water is more important than ever. KOMU-8's Sam Knef is here to tell us about some of the rules on the lake this weekend and then how flooding is putting lakeside property owners in a little bit of a bind.
As you can see behind me here, there's some pretty serious flooding here on the Moreau River in Jefferson City. I visited the Lake of the Ozarks yesterday and it was a similar sight. People were telling me it was the highest they've ever seen the water level. One property owner told me about his concerns.
The recent downpour of rain has some people at the lake saying the water level is the highest they've ever seen.
Unprecedented. I've been here 10 plus years. As you can see, the water rose and came over the seawall.
Chet Pleben says he's thankful the governor took action
to make this a no-wake lake. You have to run that boat at idle speed. You cannot have that engine or the motor or the propeller create any wake. In smaller coves like this, when the wake is created by the boat, it washes up on the shore and it does additional damage to property.
Ameren is also urging people to disconnect power to their docks so water doesn't short-circuit electrical boxes.
When that water comes up there, you mix water and electricity. That's not a good mix.
With the holiday weekend coming up, some are mad Ameren didn't open the floodgates sooner to lower the water level.
Hindsight's 2020. When you have 8 inches of rain, I mean, when you calculate that, that's a tremendous amount of rain. I can't say that you know, that they were negligent in any respect.
He says it's a mess, but he won't let it ruin his holiday weekend.
I mean, we'll get through it. We'll all get through it. Hopefully, maybe we'll learn some lessons.
Pleben says he hopes the no-wake restriction is lifted at some point over the weekend so people can enjoy the lake to its fullest. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News.
Plenty of fireworks, but there may be some things you don't know about when it comes to where you're buying fireworks in Missouri. KOMU-8's Sam Knef talked to a local fireworks expert to find out more.
Many in mid-Missouri will kick the holiday weekend off with a bang, but no one knows the fireworks business here like Bob Giroux.
We've been selling fireworks for 50 years.
He says the fireworks business is a blast. The best part?
The kids look at you and that's fun.
There are 2 kinds of fireworks outlets, seasonal retailers and shops that stay open year-round, or jobbers. Bob's Fireworks is a jobber. They pretty much sell the same stuff, but the tents can only sell for limited periods around the 4th of July and New Year's Eve. For the jobbers, the sky is the limit for when they can sell. Kind of.
But the jobbers have a waiver you sign when you come in saying that if you're outside of that seasonal retail period, you're not going to use them in our state or you're not a state resident.
We're on call. It isn't feasible to have somebody here every day. There's just not that much traffic.
Both men want people to be careful this weekend when it comes to lighting up the sky. Giroux has some pretty simple advice.
If you light something on the ground, walk away from it.
When it comes to fireworks, you got your big guns and then you got your sparklers. Child's play, right? You might think it's almost impossible for somebody to get hurt by one of these things, but you would be wrong.
On the bottom of my foot, I have a scar, and it's from stepping on a sparkler when I was a small child. You know, even when you put those down after they're done, they're still very hot.
Obviously, sparklers are not a favorite for the fire marshal. As for Giroux,
anything with a fuse.
Sam Knef, KOMU-8 News, Columbia.